Hi John, hi Stewart.
Hi Margie.
Hi Margie.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. It's
Pleasure.
a real
Thanks
privilege.
for coming here to the Solano Hotel.
Stewart, you did, I read an article where you said you did a Lennon show in 1985. Now that was before you hooked up with John.
Yeah, 1985. John and I were both.
No, that was that was the sort of a prototype kind of thing.
I was a very young man with long hair.
And I think it was 80. Was it 85?
Yeah, it was 85, mate. It was with the
the New Moon Theatre Company.
New Moon Theatre Company.
But what I'd done is taken an idea to Rodney Fisher, the theatre director, and Rodney had sort of expanded on that. It was kind of bizarre concept with 5 people on stage.
All playing Lennon, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
One of which was a woman.
Yeah, 5 different John Lennons. One of them was a woman. And years later, when the opportunity came to do this, to do any show at the Tilbury Hotel, because the guys who ran the entertainment room there, it's a hotel in Woolloomooloo in Sydney, which had attracted quite a lot of attention through some great little cabaret shows and stuff. And Michael Freund, one of the boys, said, "Have you got a show you want to do? Because somebody's dropped out for February." And I said, "Yes, I do." And I had an idea of doing just my own original idea and forgetting what we did before. So I said, "Yeah, we'll do that." And then rang Stewie and said, "Hey, we can do this thing about Lennon, but we're going to do a whole different thing. We're going to do something where I write a monologue and we pick some songs to do." And it just came out right. We did well in that season, and that was 22 years ago, and I'm still doing it.
Growing up in the
You were a
late
Stones
60s, 70s, I was a Rolling Stones guy more than the Beatles guy. And although the White Album always had a significance to me because my dad, when he left home when I was about 11, the only time I ever saw him, he gave me the copy of the White Album, which I ended up musically directing for a couple of Melbourne producers a few years ago. So John did introduce me to the other side of Lennon, which was his solo career. And that was something that I found a completely different thing from the Beatlesque period that he'd gone through. And I fell in love
You
with his
could
music.
relate more to him in that era?
Well, I think a lot of people liked the Rolling Stones because they were a real rock and roll band, whereas the Beatles, surprisingly enough, you find out that they could do some pretty good dirty rock and roll, but they were a pop band, and they were the biggest and best pop band there's ever been. And Lennon kind of didn't like that aspect of the Beatles. He didn't like the commercialism. Of course, you go for it and you want the money and the fame and everything, but when you've got it, you think, I'd rather be doing some other stuff, and I think that's how he felt, and that's why his solo career songs are so much more revealing of the man than the Beatles songs, although, he snuck enough in.
But still the Beatles songs, things like Julia and things like that were very, very autobiographical.
Yeah.
And that was under the Beatles banner.
Well, everything was released as a Lennon-McCartney song, but John Lennon wrote his own stories about his own life into those songs that he did with the Beatles, and McCartney did his, melodic stuff, and they didn't really write the songs together at all. They just had an agreement they'd made when they were teenagers that they'd all be called Lennon-McCartney songs.
What aspects of John do you think you're tapping into?
Well, for me, it's like, conveying to an audience, when I take them on this journey, it's conveying a man with a lot of anger. And, if you ever see a lot of footage of Lennon speaking, he wasn't particularly expressive when he spoke. He spoke in a sort of monotone, but he could pour out the dialogue, and it was kind of stream of consciousness talk, and a lot of it was very, very clever and very meaningful, and because he was very witty and funny, but his manner was there was a reserve. There was a distance between him and the listener. In his personal private life, I'm sure it was different, but he just had this veneer about him. And when you find out about what happened to him as a child, abandoned by both of his parents, and then when he rediscovered who his mother really was and started to get to know her, she then died in a traffic accident, and so he was really left bereft and kind of angry. I think if you went through all that today, you'd have years of therapy, but he just had his talent and his music, and he worked through all of that stuff in his songs and in his music and on a very public stage, and he was honest about it, and that's what I admire, his honesty. Basically, I just wanted to enjoy having the license to do these great songs, the freedom, the artistic freedom to do these songs. Because, you wouldn't do these songs as a band, you wouldn't throw them into your set. You might cover other people's material, but some of this is kind of sacrosanct. I get to do Strawberry Fields Forever, which I think is, like a landmark song in terms of just the songwriting, the chord progressions, the lyrics, everything. And I don't think I'd ever do that song if it weren't for this show. Never really knew that much about Lennon. All I knew was his songs, and what I'd read. And of course, because of my age, I was there in England at the time all of this stuff was going on, and so I absorbed all of that, and I just have regurgitated what I absorbed about Lennon. People have given me books and rare kind of recordings, bootlegged recordings of studio sessions and stuff, and all this detailed Lennon memorabilia, which I never really even knew existed. When we decided that we'd go back to just the two-man show, we discovered, of course, or rediscovered, the fact that the essence of this show is in the lyrics of the songs, our interpretation, of course, of the songs, but it's in the simplicity of these two men doing these songs in a different way. A journalist actually gave me the goodbye line of, like, you're performing these songs the way they were very first performed. When Lennon went to McCartney and said, I've got this song, and he just took out a guitar and played it to him. McCartney plays the piano and says, I've got this song that goes like this. And that's how they were very, very first performed. And I think that's the essence of the song, and that's why the show, I believe, is much more powerful in this way. I'm enjoying the show more than ever. Because even though it started as a two-man show, we had some tracks that we used. Yeah. And we felt that we needed them, and we added, bass lines and electric guitar lines. But really, just the acoustic show with piano and acoustic guitar that's the way it works. And all of our audiences now are saying, I saw the show with the band, it was great, but this is really, really arresting, because the concentration of our audience is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing to distract. When we had 3 other guys on stage with us, brilliant musicians, making the music sound fantastic, but that was something else for them to look at and listen to. Whereas they don't have that now. They can see what we're doing, and I think that's the way it should be.
And I know that you've both said you want people to go away feeling something.
And the man was assassinated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a word usually utilised for political figures, but he was such a figure in our society that the term was appropriate. And it is a moving scenario towards the end of the show. And you've just realised about he's just had this son, Sean, and he's changed his whole lifestyle, and he's become very, home-driven, domesticated, so to speak. And of course, he's just done this latest album, which he thinks is the best work he's ever done. And then Mushka, his life's taken away from him at the age of 40, which is, to me, still to this day.
Yeah, I think people feel that very intensely when they see our show, and that they feel the loss. I have this bit towards the end where I'm saying, people are saying, how can you talk about, the simple things of life and, love and peace when he's got more money than most third world countries, and he's just thinking, well, that's a problem for you or anybody else who bought the records and made it that way. I'm just trying to come clean, that's what he does in his songs. And sure, it's a fact that his talent made him rich, but what made him tick was what was going on inside his head and how he could express himself.
It's interesting to note that his concentration was on the concept of peace, as was Gandhi, as was Martin Luther King, as was Mandela.
Do you think that doing that has made you A, better musicians, and B, better men?
Ooh, that's a bit too heavy for me. We're just what Dylan said, I'm just a song and dance man.
This man was about peace.
Yes.
It was also about going within.
Yes.
That wonderful song of his, How Can I...
How.
Yeah, How, the song called How.
So people ask me what was my favourite John Lennon song, and I always say How.
How, yeah.
But nobody knows what the song, so I have to explain it to them because it's a song that was actually on the Imagine album. But John Lennon wrote a song called Isolation, and we used that as a kind of theme for the show. The show begins and ends with that song.
Yeah. If you could choose 6 songs that you thought portrayed the essence of Lennon, what 6 songs would you
I don't know about 6.
I know, it's pretty hard. I started, it's very difficult.
Yeah, look,
I'm going to ask both
Obviously,
of you.
how?
obviously how.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine.
I would say,
I think.
how do you sleep?
Well, you see, there's a number of different sides. How do you sleep is a song that kind of symbolises the anger and the kind of outrage that Lennon was capable of feeling, even towards his closest friends. But he was asked about it later. You've written a very vitriolic song about Paul McCartney. How do you sleep at night? The sound you make is music to my ears, and those freaks was right when they said you was dead. It's a pretty nasty lyric, and he said, well, that's how I was feeling at the time, and now it's just a song. It's a great song, which it is. So out of your angst or out of your happiness, a song is born, and that song may not be pertinent to your life forever, but it's the way you felt at that time.
At that time.
And of course, Strawberry Fields is that kind of Dadaistic kind of style of lyric writing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got Working Class Hero, which is where he came from as a kid.
The anthem.
So, that's 5.
Yeah.
What about?
Throw in any of them.
Maybe Norwegian wood when you're screwing that Swedish babe,
Obviously.
So,
Or Norwegian.
there's 6. Whoa!
Now, I haven't talked about Yoko, but in terms of influence on his life, I guess she was a very big one.
Huge.
Huge. And do you mention?
The show is very much about Yoko in the sense that that's what he found for himself. He had a very nice young woman that he'd met when he was at art college, Cynthia, and he married her and had a child, but he just was not there. His headspace was not there. And so the timing was kind of wrong, and it's very unfortunate for Julian Lennon that things were that way. But he wanted something that was, he wanted some really, really avant-garde, left of centre art in his life. That's what he was angling for, and Yoko was it.
Yeah.
And she really never had, she didn't know who he was. I mean, she heard of the Beatles probably vaguely, but she was a very, very left of centre New York artist. She was an installation and a concept artist, way ahead of her time. And she met him in the Indica Gallery in London, and he was amazed by the exhibition that she'd put on there, and met her afterwards. And he asked her who she was, she asked him who he was, and that they were inseparable from that day. I think it was a case of soulmates meeting.
She struggled a lot.
Yeah. It was tough for her to go through. One of the things that we detail in the show is the reactions. The reactions to me, even at the time, were extremely racist because she was Japanese, extremely biased because she was not a part of the cute mop-top Beatles. But
she was blamed for breaking up the Beatles.
Yeah, she was blamed as if she could possibly break up the Beatles. What she was what everything John Lennon wanted. The fact that people slagged her off in the way they did, and the British press were very savage on her, was pretty nasty. And that's where my respect for Yoko comes from, the way she actually endured that with a lot of dignity. I've never heard her say, they treated me badly. I've never heard her say that, or never seen it reported that she said that. She might have done in private, but she's kept her dignity,
I don't know if I ever told you this, but in 2010, I was living in New York. Roma came over to visit me, so we both go off to see
Roma's Stewie's daughter.
And we went to the MoMA Museum of Modern Art in New York. And in the courtyard, they had this tree called the wishing tree that Yoko had set up, and you had all these little kind of little bits of paper that you would attach to this tree. And I made this little wish that I wish that Yoko would give us the rights to do Looking Through a Glass Onion in New York. And I tied it to the tree. I've got a photograph of this. Tying it to the tree.
Yeah, you did tell me that, yeah.
And weirdly enough, in 1993, I went to visit this guru called Guru Mai. And we were trying to get the rights at that time to do the show. And I remember this guy, Babu, who was an Indian chap, who said to me, Stewart, you may not get the rights this time, but they will come in time. The guru is always right. You will get the rights at a time when you don't expect it to happen in your life. Yeah,
you
well,
got
I'm an
them?
old son of a bitch and I got no hair. You know,
20 years down the track.
20
So
years
I
down the
now
track.
believe you do have them. Is that correct?
Yeah,
You're
we
going
do.
to. You're
Yeah,
taking,
well, we have the license for New York. That's why we're going to go.
We
to
only
New York.
got it a couple of weeks ago.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
fantastic. You must be ecstatic about it.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh, we're totally ecstatic. I mean, the one ambition we had left for the show was to do it in New York City,
Yeah.
but we didn't have the copyright permission,
Now you have.
but now we do.
I wish you all the best. I think it's an amazing and marvellous show, and to go take
Thank
it to
you.
New York
thank you, Maggie.
and take it home is fantastic. But it'd be wonderful to hear some of your musicianship today. If you'd like to play us some
Sure.
songs, that would be
Yeah,
brilliant.
sure.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
How can I go forward when I don't know which way I'm facing? How can I go forward when I don't know which way to turn? How can I go forward into something I'm not really sure of? Oh no. Oh no. How can I have feelings when I don't know it's a feeling? How can I feel something if I just don't know how to feel? How can I have feelings when my feelings have always been denied? Oh no. Oh no. You know life can be long, and you've got to be so strong, and the world is so tough. Sometimes I feel I've had enough. How can I give love when I don't know what it is I'm giving? How can I give love if I just don't know how to give? How can I give love when love is something I ain't never had? Oh no. Oh no. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. Sing it again, yes I will. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in kings. I don't believe in Elvis. I don't believe in Zimmerman. I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe Yoko and me. And that's reality. Time instead of it all, till the pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. They hurt you at home and they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever and they despise the fool. Till you're so fucking crazy you can't follow their rules. A working class hero is some